morning, everybody, and welcome to session 3 of Represent. This is our virtual event series centered around learning, support, and community. We are 1 week down, so welcome back to everybody that joined our sessions last week. And for anybody that missed those, we'll be sharing playback details in a couple of weeks. Over the next 3 weeks of the series, we're focused on giving you a great insight into life here at NatWest Group and a chance to engage with some inspiring colleagues, which we hope will make you make a standout application. You'll learn how to champion your potential and find a place to belong. At NatWest Group, we're passionate about helping people, families, and businesses to thrive. And that's exactly what we're here to do. We want to encourage quality applications from a diverse group of students to our graduate jobs and internships, because we know that being diverse and inclusive helps our customers and colleagues achieve their goals and thrive. My name's Kirsten and I work in the Early Careers Marketing team, and I'll be facilitating today's event. In today's session, we'll be hearing from 2 of our colleagues, Bukola and Junior, who will share their inspiring stories of diversity and inclusion with you. They'll talk about the challenges that they've faced during their career journey and how they've overcome these with support from the bank and their networks. We're going to be running today's session as an information-based conversational style session. And as mentioned, you'll get the chance at the end to ask your own questions too. So let's dive straight in. I'm delighted to welcome both Bukola and Junior to the session today. And I'm shortly going to invite them both to introduce themselves and share, in turn, a little bit about their career paths to date. Bukola, Junior, I know our audience are keen to hear about you share your experiences of diversity, equality, inclusion. So it'd be great if you could share any particular challenges or successes that you've faced around these themes, and whether you've received any support from the bank or your networks as you have progressed with your careers. Bukola, can I come to you first, please?
Great, thank you. Thanks, Kirsten, and good morning, everyone. It's a huge pleasure to be here. For you to listen to us. And I think this is a fantastic opportunity. It's certainly an opportunity I wished existed all those years ago when I was back in school before I went to university. But so it's great that you are, you've turned up and you are sort of investing in your future career, which is good. You can never start too early. So a little bit about myself. I'm Bukola Adisa, and I work in the bank as a senior strategic advisor. And the interesting thing about me is I don't work in a bank full time, and this is also my second round back at the bank, and I would explain that in a little while. But I'm originally from Nigeria, as you can tell from maybe the name or the accent, and I grew up in Nigeria. I grew up in a sort of a large family by today's standards. So I'm the second of 5 children, and I grew up in a family that was very much science and math oriented. So my dad is a pharmacist, and he comes from a long line of pharmacists, doctors, engineers. And so it was expected for me and my siblings that we will sort of, either study medicine, pharmacy, or engineering. For some of you that are from an African background, you would understand that in some of those background and culture, you can only study a number of things, and anything else was categorized as a failure. Certainly in my family, you couldn't walk up to my dad and say you wanted to study English, music, drama, anything artistic. It had to be one of the elite courses. But there was a problem with that plan for myself because I wasn't, and I also still remain atrociously bad at math and science, but it was in the things like literature and English history that I really excelled. Eventually, I was able to, my dad saw sense, and I went to university to study law. So while I was in university studying law, it occurred to me that in as much as I enjoyed it, I didn't want to be a lawyer. For one thing, it occurred to me that I really didn't care about what happened, the cases that happened in 1846 or all those case laws, historical case laws that we had to cram and understand. But it was a very good foundation to have. So I studied law, but I decided not to go to law school. Instead, I wanted to get into the world of work, and I knew I wanted to work in corporates, but I just didn't know what exactly it was I wanted to do in corporates. I knew I wanted to work in a large organization, but I knew I didn't know what exactly that was. But I knew I also didn't want to study law. I didn't want to go to court. Interestingly, while I was in university, I started studying another professional qualification called ICSA, Institute of Chartered Secretaries and Administrators. And I was really fascinated by that because It was essentially about corporate governance and how you run an organization and some of the rules in place surrounding how you govern a large company. So that really appealed to me because while my legal knowledge was useful, I didn't have to go to court, and I could sort of do this and use my legal knowledge to help organizations succeed with their governance. So I relocated to the UK in 2006 for family reasons, and I started working. Now, when I say I started working, it wasn't as easy as that. And this is where I came into contact with my very first barrier in the world of work. And it was, I'd finished university in Nigeria, I'd come here, and then I came against that age-old conundrum of you can't get a job without experience, but you cannot get experience without a job. So I was in that catch-22 situation. Now, unlike some of you that live in this country, I've been brought up in this country, I've schooled here, the concept of internships is something you're all familiar with. You start from your, I think maybe year 11 or year 13. I don't know what it is, but you guys, you can go for internships, and you can even have a paper round and those kind of jobs. But back home in Nigeria, people just went to school. I'd never worked except maybe summer holidays. I used to get drafted to work in my dad's pharmacy so that we keep out of trouble. But I'd never had any experience. And so I came here and, what to put on the CV. The CV was empty. But luckily, while I was in university, I was volunteering in a youth organization that helped people within the university sort of get jobs or volunteer, do some humanitarian stuff. So I was able to put that in my CV. And I guess, that would be my first advice to you. All of those, take opportunities to volunteer, right? It's never too early and to start to think about, your career, what your CV is going to look like in the next, 5 years or 6 years. And it's all of those things that you're doing with the voluntary organizations that would really, really stand you in good stead. At a later stage, when I started working for another organization, I was involved in graduate recruitment. And I can tell you that the people who did things like Prince's Trust or the Duke of Edinburgh Award, all those kind of things, performed stronger than other people that not done any of those stuff. So is it always about how can you stand out? What is the difference between you and the other person that's applying for that same graduate role as you? As you all know, it's very, very competitive. So anything you can do to give yourself an edge will be great. And that's how I got my first role. working as a company secretarial assistant. Now, it was not, as a woman of color, it was not easy, I would say to you. Before now, I'd never come across discrimination. Before that time, I'd never come across discrimination because I grew up in a majority Black country. The president is Black, the vice president, everywhere I look around me, there are Black people. So I'd never felt different. That's not to say that the country I grew up in was a beacon of equality, because there were things around the gender, it was a very patriarchal society where men were preferred. So that was a different kind of fight that, we had back home in Nigeria. But for the very first time I came here, and I was very aware of my Blackness. I was aware that I stood out, and but it was okay. I kept working until there was one incident in one of the places I worked where I wasn't having a great time. The role wasn't a good fit, but also the people, the leadership of that team were not very inclusive. So I remember one time I said to them, what can I do to progress, in this organization, because I want to move ahead. And they said to me, the only way you can progress is to go back home. And genuinely, I didn't know that home they were referring to Nigeria. At that time, I lived in Hartsfield, and I was genuinely confused. I'm like, you want me to go back to Hartsfield? And he very kindly explained to me that, no, we don't mean Hartsfield. I mean, you go back home to Nigeria. Maybe your parents can help you get a job where you can thrive, because you cannot progress in this organization. Now, this wasn't a million years ago. This wasn't 1990. This was in 2010. So just about 11 years ago. And I was devastated because I had left everything I knew. I came from a very good, educated professional family in Nigeria. And I can remember I rang my mom in tears. And I said to my mom, I don't think I can I don't think I can do this. I think I'll come back home because I'm not wanted here. I will never forget what my mom said to me. My mom said, listen, you are not brought up to quit. That is one person in one organization. in one city, in one country. Like the world is your oyster. If they don't understand the value you bring to them, then you need to move. Like you keep it moving. So I decided I had a choice. I could either stay there and try to convince an entire leadership of 7 people, or I could cut my losses and move somewhere else where I would be, sort of celebrated and appreciated. So that's what I did. And from moving on from there, I started to progress. I mean, within a 3-year period, I tripled my earnings, and I got promoted 3 times. And then in 2015, I landed at RBS, NatWest, then called RBS, in 2015. And I was made global head of financial crime assurance. And I remember how I felt then that, oh my God, there's an organization that actually values the inputs of Black people. I was made to feel so welcome. I love the fact that it was an organization, even though it was a bank, and banks at that time, didn't have a very good reputation because of the long hours, because of the financial crisis, and all of the other things that were happening there. I felt like NatWest as a bank really wanted to do the right thing. And I was really supported. I had a large team. I had amazing bosses. I was given opportunities. In a lot of the rooms I was in, I'll be the only Black woman, but I was never made to feel unwelcome. And I think that is what is really special about NatWest. When you see on social media and everything around, this is a bank that is all about purpose. I can tell you that this is a bank that really, really believes in the purpose. We really do want to ensure that the people that work for us and that the community in which we operate is left better because we were there. So I was here for about 2 years. And I was given amazing opportunities. I had a lot of travel, and I wasn't forced to travel because I had young children at the time. There were some times I couldn't travel, and my boss really understood. And there were other times I said, okay, that's fine. And they understood as well. Flexible working now is all the rage, working from home. But back then, 6 years ago, when I was here, flexible working was something that was very much on the cards. And I got really involved with the Multicultural Network and the Women's Network because I felt like, the experiences I'd had in other organizations, I didn't want anyone to ever, be treated that way. So I got involved in Multicultural Organization, Multicultural Network, and also the Gender Network. I did a lot of events. And also it was while I was at NatWest, in 6 years ago, that's the other part of what I do was born. So today, I work for NatWest 2.5 days a week. The other 2.5 days, I lead an organization called Career Masterclass. And what we do is a career development platform for Black and ethnically diverse people, because we are passionate about helping people that look like us succeed. And that all happened while I was at NatWest. And they were the very first organization that supported us until today. They remain a committed sponsor to helping us help people like you and myself succeed in our careers. So if I was to leave you with one piece of advice, is that, see, the world will tell you all sorts of things, right? We live in a very polarized world. People will tell you, people like you, people that look like you can't make it. You're not meant for here. You can't, people like you, do this kind of jobs, or they are not to be found in this kind of organizations. Every day, the world will tell you what you cannot do, right? But what is the most important are the things that you tell yourself. Nothing is as important as what you tell yourself. So if you can drown out external voices, if you can connect to that thing on the inside of you, if you can tap into that innate resilience and that innate ability and that innate confidence that is on the inside of you, you will fly, you will succeed. That's not to say it's easy. I'm sure Junior will also tell you it's not easy. We've been through our fair share and we continue to go through it, right? Because it's not like, now we've made it and now we are sort of sitting in our armchairs telling you what to do. We are still grafting and hustling every day. But I can tell you that if you lean on yourself and if you tap into that innate belief that is in everybody, each and every one of you have it, and you believe that you are worthy and that there is nothing that is beyond you, you will succeed and you will fly. Thank you very much. Thank you, Christine.
Thank you so much. That was absolutely amazing, and lots of different pieces of advice and stories there to unpick. I think really hard-hitting story listening to that it was just 2010 that you experienced that in the workplace, but I guess as a result of that, you got some brilliant advice from your mum about trusting your gut, trusting your own value. And then that's kind of showing through, I guess, as well in your overall advice now to believe in yourself. And then also just a final piece as well for students. It is that catch-22, as you say, that maybe you didn't have any work experience beforehand, and then you're trying to apply for things and they say you need experience to start. But yeah, it can feel very difficult, I guess, to take that first step. And I guess if you think about it in the context of NatWest Group, for all of our programs, we are trying to do exactly that. We're trying to have a fair platform, I guess, for everybody to join us. And you don't need any work experience to apply to our programs. We're more looking for competencies and who you are as a person. So hopefully we're doing the right thing there with our early careers programs too. So thank you so much, Ricola. Okay, take a deep breath. And then I think, Junior, it's time to come to you, if that's all right, to share a little bit around your story, please.
Yeah, thank you. I'm Junior Beeman. I work in channel optimization, been in the bank for about 13 years through various roles. And I think I'll talk about when I actually applied for a job in the bank. I started to go to university. I went to college and then just got a job as a waiter, then worked in a phone shop because I love mobile phones, and then worked in Zara, the clothes shop, actually. So I got my discount today, by the way. And I wanted a job basically that was kind of like retail, but a 9 to 5. That was my drive at the time. I just wanted like a job where I had no evenings, no weekends. And I was so young and naive that when I got an interview for NatWest and the interviewer asked me why I wanted to work for NatWest, I literally said out loud, I just wanted to come to work, do a good job and go home, really. I don't have any progression opportunities. I just want a nice job. Didn't get the job, obviously. A bit too honest. And I went away and I got I thought, you know what, I want to work there now. I've got to sort of be in my bonnet. I liked that woman. I liked the feel when I went to that interview. I do want to work there. And back then we were recruiting a lot more. So I went away, got a workplace NVQ at Zara, rushed it through in 6 months. Got an interview again 6 months later with the same person. And she asked me what I'd done in the last 6 months to prepare for this interview. And I'm like, well, Nicola, just got my little NVQ certificate here. Just I did that in 6 months. And when she asked me what my progression plans were, obviously I said I want to be a CEO. I know what to say exactly. And I got the job this time, the second time round. And I was very, very happy about that. So I was a cashier here in Sheffield, where I'm from, for 6 months. And after my probation came up, my manager said to me that she loved my passion and the way I was with the customers, but I couldn't balance my till to save my life. It's because I was too busy talking to customers and booking all these appointments in. So they put me on the phone upstairs, because back then the branch had to answer the phone, which was quite a good move for me, because I actually learned a lot more around complex queries and how to deal with difficult customer situations, not just the basic counter stuff. A new manager came in, saw my passion for that and said that I belonged in the banking hall. I should be greeting customers, being the face of the branch and showing them ways to bank. And for me, that was a job that I really, really loved in the bank, because it was all about helping customers serve faster and ways to bank. And we had a lot of technology coming in. We had paying machines coming in. Online banking was a new thing. The mobile app was a new thing. Digital zones. So for me and my passions, that was perfect. And I loved that job so much. Fast forward, I eventually became deputy manager in the job, in the branch that I started out in, which is a very proud moment for me, because starting off from that level and working my way up. Considering how I started in the bank as well, like I had no progression plans at the start, and suddenly I'm the deputy manager. And I did that for a year. Really enjoyed that, but then there was a restructure. So I had two options. I could either go and run at a very cash heavy branch, and as I've just cleared up, I'm not very good with cash, or I could go back to my old role. So I went to try something new within the organization. I thought, you know what, let's try something different. So I went to work in social media for a year in Leeds, managing a team of agents that respond to customers on Facebook, Twitter. As you can imagine, that was a delight, but it gave me a great insight to the other side of the business. And that was a very interesting year for me. I then got a phone call about a year after that, saying that they were opening a branch in Manchester. And I couldn't tell if this was like an insult or a compliment, but the local director said, we're opening a branch in Manchester. It's got no cash. It's got two machines outside. We know you're a great manager, but not very good with cash. So you might want to apply for this one. I was like, I'll take that as a bit of a compliment then, because they know what my strengths are. And it was the first of its kind, actually. It was the first ever train station branch for NatWest, a big investment. And they wanted the right person. Even though the job had closed, I got the call asking to put my name in the hat. So I did my interview, very intense, very ambitious, because it was 2 grades higher than what I was at the time. And then I had to meet the managing director, do a big presentation for him, and for some reason got the job. And that was the biggest jump in my career, because it was a level 1 manager role in this big city compared to where I was from, and it was very, very exciting because all eyes were on this location because it was so new and different. In those 3 years in Manchester, I did another relocation and a transformation of a branch as well. And this was all building up my capability around strategy and change for Frontline. Then the same managing director called me and said, I'm opening a branch in Leeds, a digital store in Leeds. Can you come and open this one now too? So I went and opened that one, which brought me close to the job that I do now because it reconnects me with all my colleagues in strategy and transformation. So again, I got to the point in my career where it was like, you know, I've loved this job for a while. I've got all these skills that I've picked up along the way. What can I do with them now in the organization that's going to give me a bit more, stretch me a bit more? So I approached a colleague and said I wanted to work more in strategy. I got a secondment for a few months, and luckily then that turned into a permanent job, which I do now. So it was that's like my whole 13-year journey, and like a really like in a nutshell there. But the point was, all the passions that I had in the different roles that I did, that pushed me to the role that I'm in now. I didn't have that plan out. I was passionate about that. So in terms of these roles that I've done and any challenges in terms of D&I and diversity and inclusion, I never really had any issues with personally linking to my race or my sexuality. I don't think. It might have been something that I didn't notice, but there was nothing glaringly obvious that was like hindering me or in my way. The only issue I ever had was actually, unfortunately, from customers, because we can't control how they behave. We can't really change that. But what I have seen in the bank over the last 13 years is how we've reacted or responded to these sort of situations where now we have clear terms and conditions in our current account saying we won't tolerate discrimination or racial or any kind of abuse to our staff. We have signs in the banking halls. We're really doing a lot or everything we can to protect our people. So I'm really proud to see those changes. I was quite a resilient person when I was younger, so that didn't make me want to leave the bank or anything like that. But I'm glad that now we would know how to respond to that immediately and do something about it and protect our people. And that's one of the biggest changes I've seen. Another one was how colleagues, especially senior levels, had to handle incidents that we weren't particularly comfortable with, because we didn't talk about inclusion and diversity as much back then. When they were faced with a situation that was linked to that, it was kind of like, where do I go? What do I do? I don't know what to say in this scenario. I'm from this small town where there's not much diversity. How do I deal with this scenario? Whereas now we have our really strong employee-led networks. We have so many training modules. We have these conversations constantly happening around inclusion, so people know they can be more open and talk about it and get the support that they need. And again, I'm very, very proud to have seen those changes. Also, some of the highlights would be over the years, I've attended things like the Stonewall Conference, Diversity and Inclusion Awards for the bank. Again, really proud stories that I've got there. And the involvement in the networks has been major for me, our employee-led networks. So I sit on the co-chair for the Multicultural Network North, and I'm an ethnicity rep for the Rainbow Network. So it's funny to get to bring these two networks together, because historically, as some of you can probably imagine, the Multicultural Network and the Rainbow Network were not two networks you would see working very closely together for many reasons. So being here today and being able to be on both committees and bring those closer together has been really, really powerful. And people are a lot more brave now to speak up and get involved. And people will look at the committees now and see, if you want to look up the line, see the global co-chairs and see what we're talking about, see what we're involved in. Does this resonate with you and everyone? Because if I was a young Black gay man or mixed race gay man in the bank and I saw a sea of white faces and they're all just talking about things that have nothing to do with me and not addressing a big topic such as racism in the gay community, do I really want to get involved? Am I really going to step into the light and put my name in the ring and want to get on these webinars and get involved in these discussions? Probably not. So seeing someone like me at this level now, I'm very, very big on visibility, and Workplace has been brilliant for that. Our platform Workplace. It's helping. I've seen in the last 12 months, especially, people coming forward more, and whether they're gay, bisexual, LGBT, whatever, the intersectionalities aren't as big of an issue for them anymore. They're okay to speak about it, be open about it. So that to me says that whatever we're doing at this level is making a big difference for these colleagues at all levels. And I will continue doing that. Alison Rose has been just a great leader so far. Like you could feel a shift almost in the organisation when she took over, of how much more we were talking about these topics and making it more comfortable for people. So again, I'm very, very proud of that. My involvement in the ELNs now. So I think I'll just quickly mention why I got involved, because there was an incident in Manchester where, and this Bacola might like resonate with this. I was doing a transformation for a branch, and two black colleagues, sat down and talked to me and said until they'd seen me managing this branch, they never thought they could be a branch manager or anything higher than what they are now. And because I don't know what it was with me, I was just following my passions, but that really hit me, because I thought, why would they think that? Then after they said it to me, I went to a managers meeting, and it was all the managers in the north of England, and they were literally 3 or 4 like non-white people in the whole room. And I thought, this is why it was like a light bulb moment for me. So that's spurred me on years ago to be really heavily involved in the networks, and that's why I am today. Just what I can wrap up on. So, actually, Nicola, I'll mention the other good things that have come from this. It has been your career masterclass. So I've been lucky enough to be part of the career masterclass. I've had a reciprocal mentor, been mentoring circles, all these things that have come from the networks of being involved in inclusion has like really, really benefited me. So I know now in the next 6 months, I'm like determined to get my next promotion, and Bacola's going to help me. I'm going to put her in the hot seat. She's going to help me do that. Do you want me to tell you my piece of advice, Kirsten?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's go for it.
Okay, so my piece of advice, I always said from the beginning, I'll have 2 things. One is that be what you want to see. So treat people the way you want to be treated, and just be that good, like positive role model where you can. Use your platform if you've got one, elevate other people. I'm very much for elevating other people. And then secondly, let your passion lead your progression. We're a massive organisation, so if you're in one job and you feel like you've done it to death, you've enjoyed it, but now it's time for something new, we've got like multiple departments you can put your energy into and reach out to and learn. So don't ever think that you're in one box and you can't do something different. Let your passion lead you to your next job. Don't just chase the grades or the salary banding. Make sure that you really enjoy what you do, because that'll come through and you'll get noticed for the right reasons.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Junior. Again, a really brilliant story. And I think you talked about there being a positive role model. And it sounds like you've absolutely nailed that, especially with your story, speaking to colleagues in the bank, and the fact that you've been this kind of, I guess, role model branch manager, which is brilliant. Talking about as well, it's just interesting to hear you've been in the bank for a while, the kind of, I guess, the involvement on it and of the bank and our steps that we're taking to protect our colleagues, etc., from any racial discrimination or any discrimination, I guess. And I loved your story at the beginning, non-traditional background, and then coming in and really trusting yourself and jumping up 2 grades, which is absolutely amazing. So definitely takes a lot of guts to go for a position like that. So well done, and great advice at the end there too. Fab. Well, thank you both so much to Junior and Bacola for sharing those stories. And I think just before we go into the Q&A, I'm going to wrap up this little section by coming to you, Bacola, just to see if you also have a piece of advice for students researching their next move, or perhaps graduates starting out in their careers.
Yeah, great. Thank you. Thank you very much, Christine. And Junior, yeah, you can hit me up for that promotion talk. Very happy to help. What I would say is for anyone on the call, whether you're starting your first job or you are looking to maybe move into the bank or somewhere else for your next move, I think what I would say is, and this is something that served me well in my career, because I've worked at different organizations and I've done different things, it is just have that ability to be curious and to because that's what drives an innovative mindset. Right? When you are perpetually curious and you have a growth mindset and you are constantly learning, you don't put yourself in a box. You don't say, this is the only thing this is what I've always done and this is what I would always do. Because if Junior had that mindset, he'll probably still be in that very first branch, being kept away from cash, maybe talking on the phone to customers. But if you believe in yourself and then you have this mindset that is curious and that wants to try out new things, you would always do new things in your career. Your career will not be static. Your career will be dynamic, because we've gone away from the days where people did one job for 25 years and they retired, to people now need to actively manage their own career. So like you have to be in the driving seat and drive it and take it upon yourself to have conversations with your managers, your mentors, and people around you. But you will not be able to do that effectively if you don't have a learning mindset, a mindset that is curious. So just for example, before I came on this call, I was on a call in services, which is a part of the bank that I work in, and it was a senior leadership call, and we were talking about the strategy and where the bank is going in the sort of next 5 years. And from there, I already had a few ideas of how I can reach out to some of the leaders on the amazing programs and transformation work that will be happening to see how I can plug in to be a part of it. That is the same approach you have to bring to things. So the fact that you're on a graduate rotation and they say you're in commercial, that does not mean you have to, 5 years later, you're still in that role in commercial. You have to take a lateral view and take a broad view of your career and see it. So don't see yourself as, oh, I'm an accountant and I went to university and I can only do an accounting. See yourself as a brand that has a collection of skills that you can deploy into a set number of roles. That's the way I've driven my career, which is why I've been able to work in compliance, internal audit, transformation programs, because it's not about, I'm a financial crime expert. It's about, I have some skills that can apply in a plethora of roles. So that would be my advice, Kirsten.
Brilliant, fab. And it's really interesting. I guess it's just a completely different way of thinking about things. Even when I was at university, it was kind of thinking, right, I'll go into this and I'll stay here and then don't move around. But it definitely feels like it is changing. Perhaps it's particularly in NatWest Group side of things where you are encouraged to follow your passions and get involved in kind of extracurricular networks that we've been talking about. So kind of liking them to say like university societies that you might find, and you can follow, I guess, passion areas and projects, etc. So yeah, it's just a different way of thinking about it, and really good advice there. Brilliant. Okay. So now it is your chance to ask our speakers any questions that you might have. So at this point, we would encourage you to use the raise hand function on Zoom. I promise we're all very friendly. And it's a really brilliant way to, I guess, make you feel a bit more comfortable with speaking up, which can be helpful for practicing for things like assessment centres and events, etc. If you don't feel comfortable asking us a question live, then you can pop your question into the Q&A box. So Michael, I might just check first of all if we got anybody that has any brave volunteers with their hands up that I'd like to ask us a question.
Hi, we have actually, Kirsten. We've got
brilliant.
Alex, who's got a question. Alex, I'm going to bring you in. If you could unmute yourself, please.
You've scared them off.
Hello.
Oh. Hi, Alex.
Hi. So the question that I've got is how would you build up your confidence when you've been told, you shouldn't go into this position or you shouldn't go into this sort of role because of who you are as a person? So in my experience, I'm considered someone who's neurodiverse, and because of that, I was told, we don't think you'd be very outgoing, or you wouldn't be as very social. But actually what I found is it's quite the opposite. And I think, how would you kind of go about overcoming that?
Brilliant question, Alex, and thank you for sharing a wee bit of your story there with us. I think this one could actually be, I guess, both Junior and Bukola have touched upon this in different ways of being told that you don't fit into this box. So I'll open it up. I don't know if anybody wants to start with that question.
I'm happy to start.
There we go.
Because this is the kind of thing that makes me really angry. So Alex, first, huge well done, for being the first actually to come online. So that shows you that what that person has said right there, before, all of 30 plus of us is being disproven, because you are here and you're asking the question. What I always say about feedback, because we get this all the time, as part of the work I do with Career Masterclass, people come and say, oh, I've had a very bad feedback and my manager is saying this, I'm not cut out for this or that. There are two things when it comes to feedback. The first thing is you look at it and say, what is fact versus what is not nonsense. So what is fact? So what is fact is you are neurodiverse. Okay, that's a fact. But the fact that they're saying because you are that, you forget about this role because you are not, you don't have a bubbly personality, or you are not, or you are not confident. that you have to disprove, because you know yourself better than anyone else knows yourself, right? The second thing about feedback is you cannot, people give feedback based on their own perception of you. And perception is not always reality, right? In fact, perception is skewed because it comes from that person, because we all have our own inherent bias, right, that we all deal with. So it's a mixture of that person's bias, their own lived experience. My advice to you will be, don't let what someone has said, skew your knowledge of yourself, because you know yourself. If you know you have the aptitude for whatever it is you want to do, if you know that you have a passion for it, if you know you can succeed at it, then you owe it to yourself to at least try, right? Because until you try, you will never know. So if someone's saying to you now, oh, Alex, because, we think because you are neurodiverse, we think you don't go and work in sales, for instance, I'm just giving an example, then you may be the best salesperson ever, but until you give it a try, you will never know, because that person's feedback has held you back. So what I would say is, you know yourself better than anyone else. The way you can build your confidence is surround yourself with the right people. I would say to you, whatever it is you want to go in to do, whether it's sales, whether it's marketing, whether it's social media, whatever it is, find someone that is already doing it and learn everything you can about it, because knowledge boosts confidence. It's knowledge that boosts confidence. It's not anything anyone else says, because there's nothing anyone can tell me now and say, oh, you don't know about financial crime, because what I don't know about financial crime is not worth knowing. You get what I mean? But that's because of my knowledge. That's because I spent 16 years doing it, right? So no one can tell me that to say, because you didn't go to law school or whatever. That's nonsense. So for you, I would say, get yourself a mentor, get yourself someone that's already doing it, and learn everything there is to learn, and just drown out the noise, because everything else is just noise, right? And be confident and don't listen, just go for it. And even if you fail, that's all right. Like, we've all failed. It's fine. You've actually not failed, you've learned. So that would be my advice to you. Get yourself find someone that's already doing it, learn from them, and just, keep going, keep it moving.
Thank you, Ricola. Junior, anything else that you wanted to add to that there?
I don't think I can. Just
no.
round of applause for that answer.
I was nodding along. I don't think you can see us in the background, but I can see us both nodding along. So, Alex, hopefully that gave you some food for thought there around learning and kind of,
Yeah, absolutely.
Confidence.
That was really inspiring, Ricola. That's really amazing. I think I'm definitely going to go find a mentor now. So wonderful advice. Really a massive thank you there.
Brilliant. And thank you for coming off mute and being our first person to ask a question. Really appreciate it. Cool. I will see. Michael, do we have anybody else perhaps spurred on by Alex who wanted to ask a question?
Yes, we have.
Brilliant.
We've got Priscilla here as well. I'll just bring in, and then she can ask her question.
Hi, everyone. And my name is Priscilla. It's such an amazing event. I keep coming back and forth with all the events you have. Thank you. I'm so inspired to see, I don't know if I get her name right, Bukola or so. We're all from the same Nigeria, and I'm so happy that this organization is so diverse. So my question is, can somebody from, like, I studied an MBA, now I'm into business information technology. Is it possible I get into an organization, a financial organization as NatWest? Now, if yes, what kind of roles am I going to fit in? And when I fit in, can I progress like into other departments when I've learned on the job? And are there personal development programs within the organization for someone to grow from one department to another? Thank you.
Brilliant questions, and thank you again for asking us and for joining other events as well, it seems, which is brilliant to have you along at multiple events of Represent. with my early careers hat on, I will start by saying absolutely you are more than eligible to apply to any of our graduate programs. As you've done an MBA, you've obviously gone through your undergraduate, so you'll be looking at the actual kind of graduate program. So they're either 2 or 3 years long. I know we haven't gone into kind of exact entry requirements, etc., but effectively you'd be eligible to apply for any one of them. So you just need to have achieved hopefully like a 2-1 or international equivalent in your undergraduate degree, and you can apply your skills and knowledge to any one of our graduate programs. So you could apply to anyone. There's 17 programs to choose from, so there's an awful lot. So I think probably don't have time today on today's call to go through each one, but there's loads of information on our website. There's videos from different graduates kind of talking through some of their rotations, what you could expect, maybe some of the professional qualifications that you might get in each. So I'd really think about some of your passion, some of the areas that you like. Also think about what you don't like. That might rule out certain programs too. So I'd say first port of call, have a look at our website, and we'll be sharing our brochure as well in our follow-up in a couple of weeks. And that's also a really brilliant resource too, to just kind of have a look and try and figure out what program it is specifically that interests you the most. You did also ask a question around progression, kind of development opportunities. I'll maybe come to you, Junior. I guess you've obviously single-handedly kind of pushed yourself forward as well in the bank. What has it been like for you in terms of progression and seeking out that progression yourself? Any hints or tips that you could give?
I think in my own role, it was just being good at what I was doing, basically. So like I said before, my passion was noticed, which led to my progression in certain roles. But when it came to moving roles and moving departments, because the thing you'll find at kind of a lower level is that people in branch banking tend to get stuck in branch banking because they don't feel they've got the skills to go anywhere else. So it's building up those skills that you think you're going to need for these other roles by looking at job descriptions, like connecting with people in those teams. But personal brand and reputation has been really big for me in this organization, because if you're involved in the right things, you can get such high visibility and your reputation will help you. So yes, there's an element of developing your skills and your PDP and connecting with the right people, getting your mentors, like Bacola said, but that part as well, how you protect yourself and the people you network with, is really, really important. So it'll give you the ideas of where you can go next.
Okay.
Brilliant. And Bacola, were you going to add anything onto that? Nope, you're all good. So I think, yeah, definitely kind of power of your network coming across there. So your own personal brand, and then also that visibility piece through what we call our employee-led network. So kind of like those societies that you can volunteer for. Did that help to answer the question, Facilia?
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Thank you very much.
Brilliant. Not at all. And I think, well, first of all, thank you. Yeah, thank you for asking. And I can see we've got Sybil has come into the main room, I'm guessing, hoping to ask us a question, which I think, looking at the time, might have to be our last one. So, Sybil, if you want to take yourself off mute and ask us your question quickly, that'd be brilliant.
Sure. I just wanted to say a quick thank you to Bacola and Junior for, telling me a little bit more about your stories and your background. And I really liked the advice that you guys gave me. I've actually written it down because it was quite interesting. I haven't heard some of this advice before. My question was mainly about the graduate scheme application process. I wanted to see how the application process was for all the graduate schemes at NatWest. Is it the same for each graduate scheme, or does it vary per scheme? Or, I know they all have numerical tests and stuff like that, right?
They do, yes. And thank you very much for your feedback there. Good to hear that you've enjoyed it. You've been noting things down. I feel like that's a real compliment, which is brilliant. Yes, you're right. The application process is 5 steps. It's pretty much the same for every graduate program. It varies very slightly for our NatWest Markets program. And our Wealth Businesses Assessment Centre is very slightly different in terms of the slightly different exercise that you'll do. But pretty much for the rest of them, they're all kind of exactly the same. So there's a written application, first of all, which is basically finding out a little bit more kind of background information about you. You're then automatically invited to what we call our situational judgment test, which is basically answering questions about how you would kind of react and work in the workplace. Then you're right, it takes you on to numerical online tests and then some verbal reasoning tests. If you pass both of them, there's a video interview, and then subsequently there is a virtual assessment centre as well. So yeah, hopefully that shares it a little bit more in a nutshell. Appreciate that's a very brief overview. Again, there is loads more information on the website, kind of running you through top tips, etc. And we'll be running as well some more application sessions too as part of our Represent series. So definitely encourage you to have a look at the website and maybe register for another like really focused application events. Appreciate that was very much a high level overview for you.
Thank you very much. Thanks, guys.
You're very welcome. Well, thank you so much to everybody that came off mute and asked those questions. We really appreciate it. And conscious of time, I'm afraid that's it for today's session. So we really do hope that you found it valuable and that you're feeling inspired that NatWest Group really is a great place to work. Our applications actually opened yesterday, so please do have a look at the website, as I've mentioned already, and you can find the perfect opportunity for you. We would encourage you to use sessions like today to find out a little bit more about the bank and our culture before applying. As mentioned, we will have some drop-in sessions for application support too, so you can get a little bit more of that practical advice that you might need. Just to note too that we don't have closing dates on our programs this year, which means that they will close once we have enough applications to fill our assessment centre. So we do encourage early applications this year, but we're also conscious that we want you to take your time and then figure out which programme is the best one for you, because you can only apply for one. Finally, if you haven't registered for our other Represent sessions, we would absolutely encourage you to come along to as many as you can to get the most out of the series. But that's it for today, everybody. Thank you so much for coming, and hopefully we will see you on some of our next sessions. Bye for now.